The focus of energy consumption on tall buildings has been a focus, the primary focus about where how in the building sense it can be made more sustainable. But as you say, in some ways that's almost been cracked now with very low energy lighting, virtually no heating systems being required, maybe some limited cooling in certain times of the year, but very, actually quite low energy buildings, particularly residential buildings. So the question then turns as to, in the whole life of the building, what is the most important factor? And whilst the energy in use might have been the primary dominant issue up to a point, it now becomes the embodied energy.
Sure.
And how do we build buildings that are much lower levels of embodied energy, and particularly the sustainability of materials that we adopt. And I think that will shift people's thinking over the next 10 to 15 years.
From Laing perspective, one of the things that we do a lot of prefabrication and assembly, and in that process we're able to focus on minimising the carbon content of the elements that we are producing, putting them together on sites to build quickly to avoid disruption to the community, to avoid having building sites that are standing there for many years that sometimes become a blight on the local community. And I think from a sustainability perspective, there is a certain opportunity to actually create both components and buildings that are a lot sort of more effective than are prescribed by the regulations. And I see an issue with the regulations being too prescriptive and too onerous and not reflecting, not getting the best sustainable outcome, but actually creating generic solutions that meet the rule book, as opposed to giving both developers and engineers the ability to come up with the most effective design.
Well, we don't have any regulations yet in terms of embodied energy. And I guess that would be a change. That would drive change.
We have been looking at 50-storey buildings that are very unusual shapes and 50-storey buildings that are regular square shapes. So it can be bigger, but within the context of London, there is a rigor in the design process that you have to apply if you're looking to pre-assemble things.
And in terms of
I see that's an opportunity with.
And in terms of cost, is it more cost effective, or is it? I appreciate the speed is obviously there, which has great ramification on costs. But in terms of cost, is it?
If the design at the outset is tailored to a componentized building, then the cost is going to be less. If you create a regular building and say, oh, let's change it to components, then quite often the cost benefits are marginal. So I think if, from a developer's perspective, if they are looking at, well, how can I create both a beautiful and interesting building, but using components, then there certainly is the opportunity to do that.
So in terms of your development, in terms of your concept, are you working with architects on different prototypes in order to address it? Because I mean, what you're suggesting.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. We're working with some very good architects
on different prototypes, so shapes and this can be sort of
on different sort of holistic building solutions.
Right.
And then once you have that, you can see how that would then develop to other buildings of different